This is J. Krishnamurti's first discussion with students in Saanen, 1970.
This is supposed to be young people's meeting. And they're supposed to sit in front, and the older people like us sit back. So, what shall we, I'm asking the younger people, not of my age but less, what they would like to talk about this morning, to talk over together.
Does complete awareness imply total indifference towards situations with which we are not confronted immediately directly?
Does complete awareness imply total indifference to all the things about us?
No, to all the things with which we are not confronted immediately in time, directly in space.
Does total awareness mean a complete indifference to all other things except to that with which we are immediately confronted? Is that what you want to? Let's ask half a dozen questions, and then we'll see what comes out of it.
I think that a lot of us are concerned with social problems, not only the problem of starvation, but there are lots of problems which are urgent, like people accumulating bombs to destroy the other ones, like alienation of men towards business and industry. And all these problems need, I think, urgent solution. Can we really wait that everybody has passed his personal revolution to make another kind of revolution?
There needs to be great many social changes. People accumulating bombs to destroy others. The business world, which is so corrupt, and so on. Social injustice and the various problems of society, must they wait till the individual, free himself from his own limitations, miseries, suffering? Any other questions?
Well, two totally liberated individuals, that is, completely integrated individuals, to see the same thing in the same way, or can there be a difference?
If each individual freed himself, would each individual be different from the other, or in his actions different? Any other?
There's a problem which is confronting several of us here in terms of what to do with our lives. Perhaps we could talk over a little bit what sort of work is
Right. Several of us are concerned with what to do with our lives. We're young, just beginning to be aware of all the difficulties, the corruption, the various struggles that are going on in the world. What is one to do? Yes, sir?
You talk about closing the gap between us and the world so that we no longer have the distinction of the observer and the observed, or thought, which by its nature divides. and yet you always talk in terms of vision, which I find to be the most distancing of the senses. You're much closer to something if you touch it or smell it or taste it than if you see it. And I'm wondering if you can hope to close the gap except in action, when you're really working in the world rather than be drawn back in a way to look at it, because looking always draws you back.
Correct me if I repeat your question wrongly, please correct it. To close the gap between the observer and the observed, does it not mean a certain amount of withdrawal from the world? And it's much easier, more acute, definite, when there is action which brings us face to face with this division. And one can observe. Visually, it is fairly easy, but more difficult. But would it not be easier to bridge this gap between the observer and the observed when there is direct contact, direct touch, direct action? That's right, sir, isn't it? Any other thing? Any other question?
Could you discuss the nature of this inward change from a more biological or physical point of view? Could you discuss the nature of this inward change from the point of view of the nervous system, the body, more physical?
I didn't quite catch it, sir. Could you discuss the cessation of thought and the activities of thought and so on in relation to the biological functioning, the actual physical existence, right?
Sometimes when I feel I have awareness, I find myself, at a point where I see all human interrelationships as almost meaningless, and therefore not partake in them, and I sort of lose my quality of social interaction. And I feel that the only time something is valid is if I expound what I feel to be true. But this kind of leaves me in a very strange position. I want to be taught, but then again, I want to expound truth.
Have you understood that question? I haven't understood that question, sir. Sorry.
Okay, I guess I simplify it.
Make it simple.
Sometimes when I find myself being aware, I find all social interaction meaningless to me.
Now, when I am aware, he's saying all his social interactions, social relationship, rather meaningless. Now, is that enough? Oh, Mark.
The question of bliss.
A question of?
The word bliss. Bliss.
Bliss.
What is it? And I want to know if in this world of complete brutality and all these, it's possible for a person to live in a state of continual bliss.
Right. Can a person live in this world with all this brutality, violence, contradiction, social upheavals and so on, in complete bliss? Right? Now may we begin with that question first and then bring all the other things into it, which is, what are we going to do with our life? Right? May we begin with that and gradually bring all the other questions into it, which I will try to as we go along.
Can we also talk about relationship on the way?
What, sir?
Can we also talk about relationship?
He wants to talk about relationship between human beings, between nature and himself. Yeah. Let's begin. What am I going to do if I'm young with my life? Seeing what the world is, I have to earn a livelihood. I can't go around begging. Perhaps in India you could. If you put on a sannyas monk robe, it's the tradition in India, you can go from village to village to village, and they'll feed you, clothe you, and look after you. Let me... Yeah. Why can't you go around begging? All right, if you like it. There's nothing to prohibit you or prevent you from begging, except perhaps in certain countries, law, vagrancy and so on will not allow it. But that's up to you. There's neither right or wrong. In India, that's the common tradition to go from house to house begging. And nobody thinks the worst of it. Quite the contrary. That's part of the religious tradition there. Talking about in here, in this country, in Switzerland, try it. What's up? I have been living for 4 years begging and nothing, all right, perfect. Huh? Why, wait a minute. Question is, why don't I do it? Why don't I go around begging? How do you know I don't? No. Un momento. Look, sir, don't make it a laughing matter. It's quite funny. Look, I have no money of my own. I go around, people give me clothes or whatever it is. And I've lived like that for 45 years or more. For what am I talking about? 60 years. So that's that. Now let's get going. What am I to do? Please, what am I to do being young, alive, fairly active physically, and half intelligent? What am I to do in this world? You know, this question is being asked right through the world. Shall I become a businessman, a lawyer, a doctor? Take some kind of profession. And that profession depending on the demands of the society. Society demands so many engineers, so many doctors, so many businessmen, so many politicians, so many crooks, so many this and that. The society demands it. So shall I fit into any of these categories? So that's the question. What am I to do with my life? Right? Right, sir? Now you know what vocation means? A call. Latin, vocare, to call out. Like it's a call when a man says, I've had a divine call to join the church. That's a vocation. Not that you should join the church. I mean, the urge to do something with your life right to the end of it. To something that is true, that is completely worthwhile, that's completely meaningful, that will never bring about bitterness, frustration, anxiety, something that you will do, your vocation. That will be your whole life, right?
Perhaps. And with that, the question also is whether a vocation is necessary or desirable, or whether one should just
Drift.
support oneself doing whatever constructive, non-divisive work one can at the moment without looking to what one will do 10 years hence, without looking to developing skills that one can use.
Yes, I understand, sir. I understand. Do please follow this carefully, because this question, in answering this question, you will answer all the rest of the questions that have been put this morning. You will see in a minute how it's all related. One need not have a definite vocation. It doesn't mean necessarily drifting, but doing something from moment to moment. Some occupation, something, be a gardener 1 year, next year something or other, and so on. Get little money, but keep going. Now, which is it you think is important? A life of vocation. You understand the meaning of that word? A call. Not necessarily the call of a church or a business, but the feeling that one has to do this with one's life. And nothing else matters. When one feels that way, there is no question of frustration. There is no question of tomorrow. You are doing the thing that is complete. That's what you want to do. That is your call. You understand what I'm... One's call. Probably you have not thought about it that way. Probably you haven't gone into this question of what to do in life. And it is very important to put that question, find an answer. Because otherwise one wastes one's life. As you observe, there is such wastage of human life, not only on the battlefield, but in the daily living. So one has to find out, at least seems to me, what is your vocation? What is your... There's a marvelous Sanskrit word which I daren't use, which has been so misused, the word called Dharma. To do something which is true, which is your vocation, your life, job. And therefore, being your duty, your responsibility, your vocation, from that you never deviate. You may do something, but it's always in that direction. If you are an artist, in the sense paint pictures and so on, if you're an artist, that's your vocation. A true artist is not concerned that he's going to earn going to get a lot of money out of it, and so on, so on. It is his, his life. Nothing will distract him from that. And therefore there is no frustration, there is no bitterness, there is no cynicism, there is no failure. I think this is very important to understand. So what is your vocation? Are you going to become engineers? Beggars? Religious person? Not belonging to any church, any group, any sect, but in the sense really religious person. And spend the rest of your life teaching others, not battling with others. So in answering that question, you will find what is your relationship with other human beings. Right? Right, sir? So I'm answering your question, sir. We're answering your question. Relationship. What is your relationship? Please listen to this. When you are following your vocation, which is not dependent on the demands of society, when you are following your vocation, what is your relationship with other human beings when you are following that? Come on, answer it, sirs, answer it.
How can we speak of a vocation which is not thrust upon you by society?
How can you speak of a vocation which is not thrust upon you by society?
How can you hear a calling without and know whether this is your position or not speaking?
Yes. Look, how do you know this is your calling, this is your vocation? How do you know it? It may be imposed unconsciously by society and you think that is your vocation, your calling. Or you may deceive yourself, saying this is my line, my direction, my vocation, and I'm going to follow it to the end. And you may be deceiving yourself. You, at the end of 10 years, you say, my God, what a mistake I've made. I ought to have been a butcher. I ought to have been a soldier. I ought to have joined the church. So, look at, please and investigate that question. He says, how do I know? How do I know that I am following my vocation, which is true, which is not imposed by society, or responding to my unconscious conditioning? So you have to be alive, sensitive enough, free enough to investigate, search your own structure and find out if what you call your vocation may be thrust upon you by the society, or your own personal inclination, which you call vocation. So you have to investigate. And you say, I have no time. On the contrary, you have plenty of time. You can investigate, search out if you are really serious and honest. Find out what your line is in a day if you give your whole mind to it. Observe all your conditioning, all the influences that have been imposed upon you, your own desires, your own inclinations. Observe all that. It's only the serious person can find out his vocation, not just the man who drifts about and says, well, I'll do this and that.
I wonder if it is a real serious problem, because I'm not a butcher or an artist or a politician, I'm a man. I mean, and all these things are just restrictive. Butcher.
No, wait, you're a man. You're not a butcher, you're not this or that. You're a man. But you have to do something in life.
Why?
Huh? Why? Wait a minute, sir. Why? Why should you do anything in life? Just live? Wait, what does that mean? Live according to the edicts of society? Live according to your own inclination? According to your own pleasure, according to your own changing moods, fancies, imaginations and suppositions and formulations?
Why not?
Huh?
Why not?
Why not? Wait. Why not? What are you at the end of it? Just a driftwood, aren't you?
How do you know?
How do I know? I'll show it to you. I'm not trying to convince you. Let's be clear on that point. I'm not trying to persuade you to accept what I say. A man who says, I don't care what happens. I live a life from day to day, casually. What's going to happen to me? He may be all right when he's very young. Go on, have a good time. But as he gets a little bit older, it'll begin to tell. Doesn't it? His teeth begin to fall out. Go into it, sir. So one has... Look, most people are living this way, drifting. They get caught in a job. And when that job doesn't suit them, they change to something else. Most people are drifting in life.
Perhaps all people are drifting.
Huh?
Perhaps all people are drifting.
I say so, sir.
Are you drifting?
The gentleman asks, are you drifting? Me.
I mean, it's very serious. Are you drifting?
Why do you ask that question, sir?
Perhaps there's no difference.
Between what?
You and me. Or me or any other person.
I don't know anything about you, sir. We are talking of persons, human beings, who are drifting. Their life is very shallow, right? They are unhappy people. Divorce, remarry, and divorce and remarry, children, responsibility, alimony, God knows what else. And that's what most people are doing. And they are thoroughly frustrated, unhappy, bitter human beings.
But these people are really refuse to drift.
Wait, sir, look at it. Then what will I do? What will you do?
Can we decide such a thing? What to do?
Wait, can you decide such a thing now? Right?
Yeah.
Then when we not decide, there is no decision. You see?
Not drifting means enforcing a discipline, right?
Not at all, sir.
So,
Not at all, sir.
all right, is there a vocation apart from the human mind?
I don't think you have listened to what I've been saying, sir. You'll forgive me for saying so.
You want me to start that?
What? What, sir?
You don't get my question?
I get your question, but it has already been answered.
No. What I said was that perhaps all people are drifting. And what you are doing is introducing some sort of discipline. Like, if I do not drift, if I'm not to drift, then I have to impose a discipline upon myself.
Not at all.
Not to drift.
I think you are completely misunderstood what I've been saying. Sir, it's no good keep on repeating this over and over again. I've explained very carefully the whole nature of discipline the other day. What is involved in it. We are not going to go back into it now.
Just explaining how he's reacting to that.
What, sir?
I think it's just explaining how he is reacting.
No, but sir, we must go ahead. You can't go back to something which we have discussed 10 times. Now let's go back. What is one to do? What will you do? You say, I'm too young, must I decide now? It's not that you must decide. One must be aware of what is going on in the world. And your role in the world, your responsibility in the world. You must be aware of you and your relationship to the world, your relationship to other people. Right? Now, what is your relationship with other people? Actually, what is it? Has one a relationship with others? And what, if you have, what does that word relationship mean? Go into it, sir, please. You are related to your wife. You are related to your girl or boyfriend or whatever it is. What does that mean to you actually? Not theoretically, but actually what does that relationship mean between you and another? Is it based on pleasure? Is it based on your feeling of loneliness and therefore a demand for companionship, a feeling of frustration, and therefore you depend on another for fulfillment? You may have a conclusion and act according to that conclusion in relationship, or you may have an image about yourself and the other and feel through that image all that is involved in relationship, doesn't it? Right? Now, which is it? Relationship means to be related, to be in contact, to be not only blood relationship, but physical intimacy, in contact, in minds working together, feeling together, creating together, working together, which means a constant communication between each other. Not one person isolated and in his isolation trying to establish a relationship with another. So one has to find out for oneself, when you ask what is relationship, whether you are isolating yourself in your activities. You follow? If you are ambitious to reach a certain goal, position, prestige, your relationship is really non-existent, because your whole purpose is directed in one direction. A person who is ambitious, competitive, cannot possibly have relationships. He may get married, have children, and all the rest of it. That's merely a social convention. So, when you talk about relationship, all this is involved. This seeking for love, because you yourself have no love. Seeking companionship, because you cannot stand alone. Finding a fulfillment in another, because in yourself you do not know how to live completely, wholly. So all these things are implied when you talk about relationship. So, are you related to the world or to another? Bearing in mind, relationship means no barrier. Intellectual, emotional, no barrier, no wall, no separation, no division. You with your problems and ambitions and worries and despairs, and she or he with hers. Then only you have a relationship. See how difficult it is. Therefore, being very difficult, we are satisfied with superficial relationship, which leads to a great deal of misery. Yes, sir.
In terms of occupation or vocation, I seem to be caught in a kind of conflict in which one part says, first liberate yourself and then do what you will do, and the other part which says, do what you will do, and in that way you will liberate yourself.
There are two parts in me. One says, liberate yourself first and then do. And the other part says, the very doing is the way of liberation. Now listen to the question. First, liberate yourself from all the chaos, mess, confusion within yourself. And the other, in the very understanding of the confusion, misery, strife, struggle, despair, in the very understanding of it is liberation. The very understanding of that is liberation. Why do you divide the two?
Not the understanding, the action.
Huh?
He said the action.
Well, look, I've understood that question, sir. Look, why do you divide it? Is this action, which is first liberate yourself, is there any action in that at all? Because you are only concerned about yourself.
But action is not only understanding.
Which means what? I can only understand in relationship, not in isolation. I can't go to the mountaintop, sit cross-legged, and understand myself. I understand myself in action, in relationship, in movement. I then observe my reactions, right? I observe the way I think, feel, act. So isolation or saying to myself, first I must liberate myself, is out. Because that way leads to isolation and therefore exclusion. And in isolation and exclusion you cannot possibly understand relationship or understand yourself. You understand yourself by watching your reactions. Your reactions produce certain actions, and you watch those actions. So it's a constant watching of the movement of the brain and the mind, which is thought. Watching your feelings. And in that way, that is the only way to free the mind from its own condition. That is liberation. Right. Now, what is your relationship? Please say this is very important, because this, in putting this question, you become aware. You follow? You become aware of what you are doing, what your state is, what your mind is playing with.
About this problem of relationship, I think in the old times there was a structure of the family and then the structure of the village or the structure of the tribe. But nowadays society gets anonymous. The cities are too big. And that's maybe also why we lose a certain quality of relationship. And we should find a new society where we can recreate this relationship.
We'll go back. There was a time when the family was important, the tribe, the nation, the group. Then, what was it, sir?
Then the cities get bigger.
Cities get bigger, and the individual becomes anonymous.
Yeah.
He's squashed out. And so one has to find a way of living which is not tribal, which is not anonymous, which is not suppressed by society, anonymous. One has to find a way of living which is neither.
New society.
And you will first, you see, you are more concerned with the new society. The new society only comes when you have found right relationship with another. Society is relationship. Now it is based on isolation, contradiction, each one's despair, purposes, ambition, strife, and so on. Therefore, this society which exists now is corrupt. And to create a new society, you must find out for yourself the right relationship between you and another. And out of that comes a new society. Right? Which is not bureaucratic, which is not all the rest of it. So, in asking this question, look at what is leading up to. First, you ask the question, what am I to do? I suggested, what is your vocation? Find out. Not drift, not inquire into it. Spend time, give your thought, your energy, your vitality, your passion to find out. Which doesn't mean you discipline yourself, you become something else. Uncover, evocare, awaken. Now, from that, you realize one has to be aware of one's relationship. Right? Therefore, you become aware. So you're finding out what it means to be aware. Not only in your relationships, but aware the way you behave, the way you think, the way you are escaping, and so on. You're beginning to understand yourself in relationship and through relationship. Right? So awareness is not a matter of practice, following a particular system in order to be aware, but aware in what you are doing. When you cut bread, When you are looking at yourself in the mirror, to be aware. During the day, watch your face, your gestures, your movement of thought. Just watch it, not correct it. So that this awareness becomes extraordinarily potent. Right? Now, next question. From that, can one live in this world with this awareness? That was one of the questions asked, which is, can one have this strange sense of a bliss, a sense of one has to go into the whole question of pleasure and bliss.
But just go ahead with bliss.
Can one live with this quality of awareness in this world? Now, who will tell you whether you can or cannot? Who will tell you? I say one can. I say it's perhaps possible for another to live this way. But won't you have to find out for yourself?
Yeah, but I'm trying to see if, you can do it at the same time not desensitizing yourself from all other problems. Like supposing you say you are completely liberated, and next by your side you see some people who are not and killing one another, and one is crying, you see it.
Then what shall I do, sir? Look, what shall I do with the war that's going on in the Middle East and Vietnam and other wars? What shall I do as a human being who is aware, who is sensitive, who has watched this phenomena of butchery, of the last two great dreadful wars? What shall I do? Tell me.
What have you done during the last war?
What did you do during the last great war, Daddy? I will tell you, sir, if that interests you. As usual, we were traveling all over the world, going from place to place. And the war came, and we were in California. And being a foreigner, I was called up before the board of, who are investigating people who are worthwhile to fight. And they saw I was a poor, unfortunate heathen who couldn't even lift a gun, didn't know what it all meant to kill another. They said, please go home. And so does that all this interest you? I milked a cow, 2 cows, looked after chickens, did gardening and all the rest of it, till I could get away from California. And then started the journey all over again. Bene? Washed dishes, washed floors, all the rest of it. Now, sir, just a minute. You see where we have landed ourselves? We are asking, what is it to be aware? And with this quality of awareness, with this quality of attention, which in itself is a great bliss, because it means freedom. And can such a human being, free, aware, he may make a mistake, but corrects it. It's not, there is no regret. Then you say, my God, I've done terrible things, and what am I to do? You move, you follow? The mistakes are wiped out, corrected if you can, but you keep on. So, you're asking with this awareness, with this attention, with this quality of bliss, can one live in this world? Yes, sir, I tell you can. But that's not an answer for you. What's the good of a man, another man saying you can have food when you are hungry? You need food. It does no good taking you to a restaurant showing you the food. When you have to. You follow? It is your vocation. There we are. It's your vocation to find out how to live in this world with this alert awareness.
That's encouraging.
Huh?
That's encouraging.
The gentleman says that's very encouraging. Don't be encouraged by another. Because then another can also disappoint you. But if you see what is possible, then it releases tremendous energy in you. You understand, sir?
Yes.
Possible. So, from this quality of awareness, which is not following a method, a system, a discipline, but watching. Watching how you sit. Watching the restlessness of your body. Becoming aware of the fidgeting of your fingers. Right? There is the biological inquiry, watching the body. You understand, sir? Watching it, not directing it. Not saying it should or should not, but watching it. When you watch so alertly the body, you will see the body becomes very quiet.
But sir, this is simply impossible within heavy industries, as you say.
What?
It is possible if you live amongst a religious group.
It's only possible if you live among a religious group.
Not only, but mainly I'd say it's very difficult in heavy industries. Sir.
It's very difficult if you have to live in a society so corrupt, so irreligious, to do this. So everything is difficult.
No, sir, I've practiced it many a time and it is extremely difficult.
So I'm telling you, sir, don't practice it. Don't, please, I beg of you, don't practice anything. No, do listen to what I'm saying. Don't practice anything. If you practice, your mind becomes mechanical. It's like,
Just words, sir.
huh?
I'm just using a word. I don't mean it really like this. Words are very limited.
I know that, sir.
If you're confused by the very structure of society, you go on
I-
and you try.
Sir, look, do,
It's impossible.
sir, look, I know, we all know the tremendous weight of society. The society is your father, your mother, your neighbor, your politician, the society. That I know the dangers of it. We are all well aware of it, the criminality of it all. And I say to myself, what am I to do in this society? Run away from it? Join some religious group? Escape into some fantasy? Or become a communist, a socialist, all the rest of it? So As I've explained all this.
When do you identify the want of changing society with becoming a communist?
I don't, sir.
Justification.
I don't identify the change of society with the communists, or with the Catholics, or with the Labour Party, or with this or that. When you identify yourself with a group, you cannot change society. Full stop. If you belong to a religious group, you cannot change society. The other day, somebody came to see me, I don't know why, and he said, at last I'm free. And being free, I've joined the Catholic Church. Yes, sir. Because to them, freedom means freedom of choice. Follow this. Go into it, sir. Freedom of choice. Right? When do you choose? When you are confused, when you are uncertain, you say, well, I'll choose this. Right? But when you see very clearly, there is no choice. Voilà. It's only when the mind is confused, it chooses. When the mind is very clear, there is no choice. Now, go into it. So you're asking, can one live in this world so clearly, without any choice, with a full awareness, right? Do it, sir. Do it. And you'll see, and the immense possibility of it. It's only when you think you have to change according to a certain pattern, according to a certain goal, according to a certain principle, then you're lost. But if you watch yourself, play with it. When you're talking, when you're driving, how you drive with your mouth open all, watch it. When you're talking, whether you're gossiping, that's one of the favorite means of wasting one's time, gossip about somebody or something. Watch it. So that your mind becomes astonishingly sensitive. And it is that sensitive intelligence that's going to act. Yes, sir.
Thinking and being aware compatible.
Thinking and being aware, are they compatible? Are you aware that you are thinking? Please I'm putting you this question. Are you aware when you are thinking? No, don't answer me. Look, inquire. This is really quite interesting question. Go into it. I'm so sorry. No, please take her out. She's bored sitting here. She doesn't want to go out either. Ask her to come and sit here. I'll hold her hand. The question was, is thinking and awareness compatible? Do they go to... Now, my question is, are you aware that you are thinking? Huh? Awareness being watching, without any distortion, without any effort, without any correction, justification, just watching. I mean, don't one moment or next, look at it, sir, look at it. Are you aware that you are thinking? Or is thinking immediate? You think. I ask you something, immediate response. Now, if you go into it a little bit, you will see something very interesting. The old brain, which is full of memories, knowledge, experience, the old brain responds instantly to any challenge, right? I say you are ugly. You say no. You follow? The response is instant. The response which is of the old brain, right? Now if you are aware, there is a hiatus, there is a gap between response of the old, and because there is a gap, perhaps a new response will take place. You're following what I'm saying? You're following all this? No. All right. Looks how you can watch all this in yourself. If you watch yourself, it's most better than any book ever written by any man, including the Bible or the Gita or any other book. If you watch yourself, you will see that there is a quality in the brain which is always the old. The old tradition, the old conditioning. And any challenge, which is always new, must be, otherwise not challenge, the old brain responds quickly. Right? I'm a Christian. Bang. You follow? Or a communist, this or that. According to its old conditioning, it responds. Now, if you are aware, you will see that the old brain need not necessarily respond immediately. There is a gap, an interval. In that interval, the neural mind will respond. You try it out. Do it, and you will see. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you all getting too tired? This is really quite important if you go into it. Marvelous. Because our old brain, which is at the back and so on, I'm not conversant with all that, the old brain responds all the time, according to pleasure, according to pain, and so on, so on, so on. As that is responding all the time, there is no new response, right? The new response can only take place when the old brain is sufficiently quiet, right? For this quietness to be, there must be an awareness in which there is no justification, condemnation, identification. An awareness. In that awareness, the old brain becomes little more dormant. And therefore the new brain can act. You go into it. And that's why the whole question of sleep and dream and all that is part of this. Perhaps we should go into it another time, not now.
I was wondering if you could paint a verbal picture of what the world would be like if everyone was a total individual.
You would like to have a verbal design of what the world would be like if all the human beings are totally individuals. I'm afraid I'm not the person to give you a verbal picture. But that's a waste of time. What will be is not important. What is important.
I try to escape. As soon as I become aware of my facial expression or whatever, an instant thing. I become aware of it, and I want to change it. I always change it.
Moment I become aware, I want to change, whether it's my facial expression or a particular way of thinking and so on. Moment I become aware, there is an instant response of change, or the demand for change. That's what I'm saying here. The instant response for change is part of the old brain. Because it says, this isn't right, this should be that way. To quieten that old brain is to be aware without any choice. To be aware of the trees. Look, you are aware of those mountains. Can you do anything about it? Can you? There they are. The line, the height, the beauty, the valleys, you are just aware of it. In the same way, to be aware of yourself, not wanting to change it. Then the response of the new brain brings about quite a different quality of change, something totally new. Pardon me? What is the question? I can't quite understand.
Well, isn't there a part of me that controls the old brain?
Isn't?
To be quiet?
No, madam. You see, moment there is a division between the old brain and the new brain. Oh Lord, I can't go into all this. You don't, please, just look at it, sir. There is a division between you and another, right? Between you and the tree, between you and the mountain, between you and your husband, wife, children, all the rest of it. There is this division. This division exists because there is always the censor. Censor, who says this is right, this is wrong, this should be, this should not be. That is part of our conditioning, is part of our structure, is part of our society, our culture, to judge immediately. Right? Now, to be aware of this judgment, if you are aware of it without any choice, in that awareness there is no division at all.
In the very speculation of this, to get there, there's a lot of division in this.
There is no speculation, sir.
Well, I believe amongst most of us, sir, and I'm watching people and myself very closely, there's a lot of speculation going on about this.
Then if you are,
it's a very intellectual approach.
and we said that too, sir. If you are intellectually approaching this whole problem, then it becomes a nightmare. But if you also approach it emotionally, it's also another form of nightmare. But if you approach it, sir, if you approach it as it is, look, if you approach it as it is, which means you have been conditioned by the culture in which you live, right? That is a fact, isn't it?
Yes, but what I mean to say, sir, is when I experience beauty, it comes about uninvitingly. It doesn't come about if I urge it, if I force myself to the slightest and most, to the finest extent. It creates a gap because I want to get somewhere. But it's happening to most of the people here all the time.
So I don't know what's happened to most of the people all the time, but I'm saying as one human being, we are so conditioned in the pattern of achievement, whether in business, in religion, in any way, we are conditioned to achieve. Now, one has to, in becoming aware of this conditioning, then you will find in that awareness, if you are choosing, if you are saying, I must not try to achieve, then you are blocking yourself. Then greater conflict arises.
The very meeting, sir, does not come out of improvisation. It has a purpose, a very definite purpose.
I know, sir, if one is aware of that very definite process, that very awareness changes the pattern. I can't tell you anymore, repeat the whole thing over and over again. It's now 10 to 12, yes, sir.
Would you say something on the cessation of I and the flame of discontent at the same time? Or is that
Look, it's now quarter to 12.
Yes, sir.
Wait. Do we have another meeting for young people?
That would be great. Yeah.
Do you want it?
Yes.
You know how much I'm working?
Do you feel like it?
Do I feel like it?
Yeah.
If you want it, and you're asking me, you want it, and you're asking me if I feel like it, right? I feel like it if you're real serious.
Are we serious?
And it's up to you. If you're really serious, if you want to really deeply go into all this, I will spend all my day at it. You understand, sir? So we'll have next Friday at 10:30.